this what everybody's doing with their kibble at home? Hello, Pam. Hello, Mandy. Hello, Amy. We're good.
We're good? Okay.
We're good. I had the girls help me out because we wanted to talk about how we're storing our food. Lots of folks out there think, I serve a dry diet, it's dry, I don't have to be as diligent as I might have to be if I was feeding a raw diet or something that is moist or wet. The unfortunate thing is, hello Kathy, that couldn't be farther from the truth. You guys want to know why? Raw food, in comparison to dry food, so dry food kibble has 75 times more potential for mold and bacteria than raw food. 75 times, you guys. So for every 1 pound of raw food that might be contaminated, here's another industry fact with regards to pet industry. In the grocery stores where we go to buy the meat that we eat, so we go to the grocery stores and we buy a package of chicken or a package of ground beef or what have you, the Drug and Food Association that manages Canada allows for up to 10% contamination of the meats that we eat. Chicken, beef, pork, whatever, when we go buy a package. Up to 10%. Do you know what they allow in the pet industry for raw food? 0%. There is no wiggle room. There is no negotiating. There is no percentage that is acceptable. Any percentage of bacteria, salmonella, E. coli, anything, it is immediately pulled. It is immediately a recall. There is zero tolerance when it comes to raw pet food having any type of bacteria. But in the food that we eat, that we buy from the grocery store, they will allow up to 10% contamination of bacteria, E. coli, salmonella, because they're saying, well, you should just wash it when you get it home. And I know that a lot of people do, but I don't know how many people wash ground beef. I'm pretty sure people wash their chicken. But so anyways, when we compare raw food to dry food, 75 times more likely that we will contaminate surfaces or grow bacteria with a dry food than with a raw food. Okay? So when I ask you, how are you storing your kibble? Okay? A lot of folks think, well, I want to keep it fresh, so I'm going to get some big plastic container that I put my food in. They even make these in the pet industry. I wish they would stop, but they make these in the pet industry, these great big containers that we can store dry food in. And just keep a scoop in there and then we just scoop it out. Here's why we don't want to do that. Kibble is fresh in the bag until the minute that we crack this bag open. Oh, now I just closed it. Oh. Okay, so anyways, it's open. So kibble is fresh in the bag until the minute that we crack this bag open. A lot of people, the expiry dates are always listed on the bag, usually on the back, sometimes on the side, sometimes on the bottom, but whatever. You can always find a best before date. Some manufacturers also include when the food was actually prepared, when it was bagged. That's the important date that we want to look at. The reason is because 18 months, kibble manufacturers typically are going to tell us, oh yeah, you've got it's got extended shelf life. Kibble can last forever. Kibble should be used. You want to have it consumed within 18 months of when it was packaged. So when the manufacturers are listing both dates, kind of your best before as well as when was it packaged, that's the date that's really important. 18, you can push it to 24 months, but 18 is a safer bet. So if it was packaged on January 1st, 2022, then we have until July of 2023. If that bag is not opened, we have till July of 2023, 18 months from the date that it was packaged. As soon as we crack that bag open though, the fats in the food are exposed to light and air. The light and air starts to oxidize the fat, which starts to rot the food, essentially, okay? So if you've been in store, you will have heard us talk about that we want to see you use a bag of kibble. Once you've opened it, we want to see you use that bag of kibble within 28 days of opening it. So that's why it's important to pick the right size for the size of your animal. Yes, the bigger bags usually come in at a better price point versus buying, 6 small bags. But if all that food is going to rot because you don't have freezer space, you're feeding your animal rotten food after the first 28 days. And it's just because of the way that kibble is processed, right? Kibble is our most processed food option out there. It has to have fats sprayed on it after it goes through the cooking process, because when it goes through the cooking process, all of the nutrients, the fat, everything is all cooked out of it, essentially. So after the kibble is prepared in its little tiny nugget shapes, then the manufacturers have to go back in and spray fat, because our animals need fat. They need fat for energy. So that's why we have to get the fat back on there. But that fat is very volatile in the sense that as soon as it is exposed to light or air, so as soon as we rip that bag open and the fats are exposed to light and air, they start to oxidize, which can rot the food. So how do you store your kibble? Not like this. Never like this, you guys. Never in a plastic container. And this is exactly why I went and got a plastic container. I'll tell you exactly what's happening right now. So this food now, I've opened the bag, we've poured it in, the food has been, or the fat has been exposed to light and air. The fats are oxidizing. This is just a chemical reaction that happens. And as these fats oxidize, they also create a chemical reaction with the plastic that they are touching. So I could never clean this container enough to get rid of the invisible mold that starts to grow on the inside of a plastic container. If we're going to keep kibble in any container other than the bag that it comes in, because here would be my better bet. The better thing for me to do is not pour my food into the plastic container. The better thing for me to do is take this entire bag as is and put it into the plastic container and then put the lid on, because I am then minimizing exposure to air and I'm keeping it in the bag, so I'm reducing the exposure to light as well, minimizing light, minimizing air, and then I want to keep it in a cool, dry place. So the best thing that we can do is we want to keep it in the bag that the manufacturer puts the food in. The reason, and you guys know this, there's kind of 2 different kinds of bags out there. There's the bags that have like the silver lining, right? And then they're kind of like papery bags that kind of have two layers, and one's kind of waxy on the inside. That's their attempt to try to help preserve the food. The foil bag also it's an improvement. It's an enhancement of the old waxy papery bag. And that bag will help to preserve the food. So the best thing we can do if we are serving a dry diet is to keep our food in the bag. Okay, that's the first step. We do not want to pour it into a plastic container ever. Not a plastic bowl, not a plastic Tupperware, not a plastic bin, not a plastic pet food kit, no plastic, okay? Because of what happens when the fats are exposed to light and air and they oxidize and they start to rot and they create that chemical reaction with the plastic where the chemicals from the plastic leach into the food. And then not only are we serving potentially rotten food, but we're also serving food that now has chemicals from plastic that has leached, soaked into the food, and now we're feeding that to the furry guys. So, keep it in the bag. When we open it, remember that we want to have it consumed within 28 days. If we can't, then what we want to do, our best bet in order to keep the food as fresh as possible, to optimize the freshness, is to put the food in the freezer. If you have freezer space, if you want to buy the big bag, but you've got a tiny little Zaner guy, and he's only eating this much in a day, buy the big bag, but make sure that you got freezer space. And then what I would recommend, what I tell all of our folks to do, is get yourself an airtight sealed glass container. Glass will not leach. There are no chemicals from glass that will leach, and we can sterilize glass. And a lot of people say, well, what about a metal container? We can't sterilize metal the same way that we can sterilize glass, because glass is not porous. Is that right? Or it is porous? You can't get through it. You can't get, that's what I'm trying to say, you guys. I just lost my vocabulary. So if you get an airtight sealed glass container, and just get one that will hold enough food for the week. Keep your bag of dry food in the freezer to maintain optimum freshness, because then we're going to get months out of that. And pull from the bag into your airtight sealed glass container. Keep that in a cool, dry spot in your pantry, in a cupboard, not out in the sun, not out in some hot area. And then you just scoop from there. And then before you refill it, you can give it a good scrub with your hot soap and water, and you can make sure that we clean everything out, make sure it is dry, and then refill for the next week. That's the best thing that we can do in order to optimize the freshness of the food and to make sure that we're not feeding rotten food. You guys, I made this mistake with my big dogs, my poor big dogs. And my poor Spencer, that was my male German Shepherd. And I used to say all the time, ooh, Spencer's favorite day is new food day, because the only day that Spencer ever gave a crap about his food was the day that I would rip open a brand new bag of food. Because why? Because I had a great big bucket that I bought at the pet store, a great big plastic bucket that was made just for pet food, and I didn't know any better. And off I went and I bought this big bucket, so I didn't have to have this god ugly dog food bag in my kitchen. I could have this nice plastic bucket instead. And I would pour the food in there. And the only day that Spencer ever cared about his food, and then to top it off, you guys, I fed them out of plastic bowls. Because they were big dogs, and I bought these great big plastic bowls, and I thought it was such a great price. I was feeding them. First I kept their food in plastic bins, and then I put their food in plastic bowls. Like, oh, my poor dogs. Hello. And okay, so I used to bug Spencer all the time, and I used to say that, oh, Spencer's favorite food day is new food day, or Spencer's favorite meal is new food day. Why? Because that was the only time I wasn't feeding him rotten food. I would rip open the bag, that food was fresh. We didn't have to worry about, it was fresh the minute I opened it. Then I poured it into plastic, and then I poured it into a plastic bowl, and I fed him, my poor boy. So I don't want you guys to make those same mistakes. So we don't store our dry food in kibble. And if we do have, we don't store our dry food in plastic. And if we do have one of those great big plastic bins, like I said, you're going to take that entire bag, you're going to take the food in the bag, and you're going to put that whole bag in the bin. And then you're still going to scoop from the bag, okay? That's the best way that we can do it, so that we're not contaminating the food with, it's an invisible mold, you guys. You will not see it, you will not smell it, but it's there because of that oxidization, the natural process that happens when fats are exposed to light and air, okay? When it comes to our bowls, because I said we're going to talk about a little tip with your bowls. One, we don't want plastic bowls. We do not want plastic bowls because of the same thing that happens. Just like when we're putting it into a plastic container. As soon as those fats are exposed to light and air, they start to oxidize, the food starts to rot, that chemical reaction starts to happen in the plastic dish that we're feeding them out of, and they're going to then ingest the chemicals from the plastic. The other thing that can happen is it can actually reduce the pigmentation of their nose. Now, there's a great big long medical term for this. But oftentimes when puppers come into the store and they've got, their nose should be black, but there's a little bit of white or pinkish color, discoloration in their nose. And I talk to the pet parents about it, and I say, are we eating out of a plastic dish? Yes, he eats out of a plastic dish. That's what can happen, you guys. Okay? And I can't remember the great big long word. I can find out for you if anybody really cares. But basically what happens is the pigment in the nose start to disappear because they're eating out of a plastic dish. We never want to eat out of plastic dish. You would think that ceramic is safe. Zainer was eating out of ceramic dishes for a long time until I learned what happens with ceramic over time. Over time, what happens with a ceramic dish is tiny little hairline fractures start to occur. And now any food that we're putting in there, whether it's dry or raw, that bacteria starts to grow in the cracks of the ceramic dish. And so now it doesn't matter if I wash it. It doesn't matter if I put it through the dishwasher. It doesn't matter. I cannot get into those hairline fractures in the ceramic dish, which then captures all the bacteria from the food, from his mouth, and I can't clean it. So, stainless steel, you guys. This is the way that we want to go. For their food dish, for their water dish, we want to go with stainless steel. And we want to make sure that it is high quality stainless steel. Don't go to the Solar Door. You know what I'm saying? It rhymes with Solar Door. Don't go there and buy their metal dishes or the big department stores that sell everything super cheap and buy a metal dish there thinking that you've got yourself a good stainless steel dish, unless it says stainless steel on it, or you know that the grade is like high quality, can't bend it. You don't want to go with cheap metal because we're going to have a whole variety of other problems. You want to make sure that it's stainless steel. Stainless steel, we can sanitize as a dish, okay? The other really big thing about bowls, a lot of folks, I did it, a lot of folks, I know this, think that I'm feeding a dry diet. Dump the food in, let it sit there, let the dog graze, whatever, refill it for supper. And then the next day, refill it for breakfast. And then, well, maybe once a week I'll wash the dish because it's dry. What can happen? There's a higher likelihood that we can get bacteria by never washing a dish that holds dry food versus raw food. Raw food, there's nothing left when they're done, right? Like that bowl is licked clean. We still want to wash it, of course, but there's more potential for bacteria if we let dry food sit there and not wash it. Wash it every day. Every day. More importantly, so Zainer, I sometimes put them in the dishwasher. I sometimes wash them by hands, but Zainer's got about 8 stainless steel bowls because he eats twice a day, right? So that's 4 days worth of bowls for me. And if I don't do the dishes today when I get home, then at least I still have dish for tomorrow for him, which is why he probably doesn't need 8, but he has 8. His water dish, the pet's water dish, whether it's kitties or puppies, doesn't matter. We wash it daily. We dry it every day before we refill it. And that is the key. You want to wash it, but drying it is even more important. Have you ever noticed, and again, I totally did with my big dogs because I didn't know the things I know now. You'll feel that kind of slimy inside on the wall of the dish. That goes away. What that is that's the bacteria from their mouth. So when they take a drink and some of the bacteria comes out as they're drinking, that bacteria starts to build a home on the walls of our water dishes. To get rid of that, the best thing that we can do is wash that water dish every single day and dry it before you fill it. So every single day, Zainer's water dish gets dumped, it gets washed with hot soap and water, and then it gets dried thoroughly before I fill it. Actually, I have 2 water dishes, so usually I just swap. But if I am filling in the store, we have one that they share so that every day it gets washed, it gets dried, and it gets refilled. Drying the water dish is key, you guys. Key to eliminating that bacteria that gets in the water dish, okay? So, points to remember, if we're feeding dry food, keep it in the bag that it comes in because that bag has built-in preservation techniques. If you're going to store it in some sort of a container, put the entire bag into the container, especially if it's plastic. Our best bet The best thing that we can do is take that bag and put it in the freezer, even if it is just a little bag and you're like, well, I get through it in 14 days. In order to maximize the freshness of the food, keeping it in the freezer is the best thing that we can do. You could serve right out of the freezer too. You can keep the food in the freezer and you can scoop right out of it in the bowl, let it sit there for 15-20 minutes so it thaws. I mean, it's not like they wouldn't be able to crunch through it anyways, even if it was frozen kibble. But you can absolutely do that, or keep your food in the freezer and get an airtight glass container that you can just fill up that you'll use for the week. Never, 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 never put our kibble in plastic. Never for storage. Never in bowls. If we have plastic bowls, we want to get rid of the plastic bowls because of that chemical reaction that's happening when the fats oxidize. The chemicals from the plastic are leaching into the kibble, and then our dogs or cats are eating that. So never, never. Ceramic is kind of the number 2. We don't want that, but it's better than plastic. But then I would be changing my ceramic bowls very often, because Zayner's ceramic bowls weren't all that old. But when I learned about this and I looked at it and I literally got out like the magnifying app and I'm like, oh my God, there was tiny little hairline fractures. Threw out all the ceramic, replaced them all with stainless steel. Stainless steel bowls are our best option. And always, always, always make sure that we're drying the water dish. Kylie says, thank you for sharing these tips. You're welcome. You know what, Kylie? The reason that we do this, the reason that we want to help inform as many pet parents as we can and educate folks on everything that we can with regards to food and treats and even just their overall health care is, like I said, me, Ella, we've made these mistakes. We've made these mistakes with other dogs. Every dog that we have in our life is a teacher. And so, unfortunately, I was a slow learner with my Spencer and Madison. I'm going to cry. And, but they taught me so much. And now I can do even better with Zayner. So this is the information that we want to share with all of the pet parents out there so that everybody can do the best they can with their animals. I don't want anybody ever to think that you must go from 0 to 100 when you're making changes with your animal. Every single tiny incremental change that you make will help them. So if you pick one thing, if you go, you know what? I'm going to start washing and drying my dishes every single day. That's one positive small change that will add up to big benefits. And if next week you say, you know what? I'm going to scrap these ceramic bowls and I'm going to go find me some stainless steel. That's another one small improvement. Every time you make one small improvement, it can have huge benefits for their health. So we share all of this information so that everybody else is not making the same mistakes that we have made. Amy, so much good information. I'll have to get my dog's new bowls at your store. I'm positive ours are not good quality stainless steel. And you know what? I made that same mistake too, Amy. I'm like, ooh, look at how cheap these bowls are at Malwart or the Solar Door. Like, ooh, they're stainless steel. They're not stainless steel. They are cheap metal. And then, of course, cheap metals come with a whole host of other chemicals and toxins that we don't want them eating out of. So stainless steel, good quality stainless steel dishes. You know what, you guys? I used to be, when the store first opened and I didn't know all the things I know about bowls now, I was on the hunt for the cutest bowls out there, and I wanted funky bowls, and I wanted this, and I wanted that. And I went through bowl after bowl after bowl until I learned all this stuff, and all of a sudden I went, stainless steel, good quality stainless steel bowls will be the only bowls that we sell. And so we do the messy mutts. I love them, you guys. They are a super thick, durable stainless steel. The silicone comes right off the bottom, so you can always take that off, but it holds it in place while the little monkeys are eating their food if it's kind of on a slippery surface. I don't ever take the silicone off because it's so tight on there. It's not like water gets underneath there, but I love the bowls. And like I said, Zayner, the little Zayner man, has 8 of them because sometimes I'm a lazy dish doer, but I always want him eating out of a clean dish. Tammy says, great to know about the bowls. You know what? It was eye-opening for me, you guys. I'm telling you, because Zaner probably had about 8 ceramic dishes, and I'm like, oh, they're so cute. But not good for his health. Yes, Leah's saying, I use glass. I thaw the frozen patties, I thaw them in glass, and then just feed these less dishes. 100%. And you know what? If you don't have stainless steel or you can't find good quality stainless steel, like a Pyrex glass dish is, because remember that glass, we can't get that seeping and leaking of chemicals. So if you can't do stainless steel glass, like a Pyrex glass dish is also a fantastic option. Thank you for bringing that up, Lee, because I completely forgot. Yes, Pyrex glass, Kylie, sorry, you can absolutely do that. Okay, you guys, I wanted to make sure, I always remember, like, after I get off the lives that, oh, I forgot to tell them this. But I think I have told you everything. We wanted to talk about storage of dry food, and then I wanted to talk about the bowls as well, because that's important stuff. Our order came today, you guys. So if anybody was waiting for anything, our orders normally come on Wednesday. Of course, with the storm in Saskatchewan, we were not the only ones impacted. I know, and I would rather people be safe. But the order finally came today. It was able to leave Swift Current today. So everything is back in. And Christmas gifts from Santa Paws. Gifts from Santa Paws still coming in hot and heavy, you guys. So if you haven't ordered your gift from Santa Paws yet, you can by all means get that in. We're going to get started on getting those all banged out so that we have them ready to go for December 1st for everybody. Next week, you guys, here's your little teaser that Black Fur Day is coming. So stay tuned for all the details on Black Fur Day. And then we are into December. Can you believe it? However, we've got, and we kind of talked about this a little bit before, we're just putting everything together. We are doing the 12 Strays of Christmas. It will be a great big fundraiser for CC Rescue, where we are trying to, the anchor dishes come with lids. Okay, that's the glass dishes you're talking about, Lee. I should not read and talk at the same time. I can't do this thing. Okay, so 12 Strays of Christmas. We're doing this to help get stuff for Christmas for CC Rescue. So essentially what you're going to see is we're going to be showcasing different pups and their wishes for the 12 Strays of Christmas. And when you guys participate in this fundraising initiative by either providing the supplies in the puppy's wish or making a cash donation, which you can make right on our website. It will take the credit card and you can say how many times you want to donate. They're in $10 increments. And if you're saying, well, I want to do 2, that's $20. Every day that you participate in this fundraiser, you will also be entered to win in our 12 days of local giveaways. You guys, we hooked up with 21 other businesses, and so we have a massive prize package to be won over the 12 Strays of Christmas through our 12 days of local giveaways. Do you know how many times I had to practice that, you guys, in order to be able to say it? So that is coming at the beginning of December. Stay tuned for that. And I thank you for sharing some of your Friday with us. I look forward to seeing you in store. We are here till 6, here 11 till 6 tomorrow. Oh, with nail trims. Nail trims tomorrow from noon till 4, you guys. We've got Danny from Round of Applause who's going to be here helping us out with nail trims. You do not need an appointment. $12 for a trim, $16 for a Dremel. I just chatted with Danny again today. She's super excited to be here and helping us out. So we've got that going on tomorrow, but we are here normal hours, 11 till 6, but nail trims only between noon and 4. So if you got a furry guy who needs a podicure for the holidays, get them in here. And then, of course, we're closed on Sunday, you guys. Back on Monday, 11 till 6. And I look forward to either seeing you next time or seeing you in store. All right. Have a great day, you guys. Bye-bye.